Hi, guys. Welcome to Connect the Dots to Your Wellbeing. I'm Tiffany Berger, owner of Breathwork 614. I'm a breathworker and well-being life coach who is passionate about enhancing your life. I'm so glad you're here because you deserve to live out the life you desire. Let's get started. Well, hi guys, welcome back to Connect the Dots to Your Wellbeing. I'm Tiffany Berger, owner of Breathwork 614. I am a breathworker and well-being life coach, and I am passionate about transforming others' lives. Today, I'm really thrilled. I'm happy that you all are here because I have Laura Gladden on the podcast. She's here to share her transformation journey with you and really just share her story. We know that it's our stories and our vulnerability that really help us connect with others and transform others' lives. So, Laura, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. It's so good to see you here today. See your bright,
You
smiling,
too.
shining face. Yeah. So, Laura, how long have you been connected to Breathwork 614? I was looking back today and thinking, when did she start? Do you know the date?
I'm glad that you looked back because I meant to and I forgot. So you tell me, how long has it been?
Okay, so I'm going to double check my notes right here. When I was looking, oh dear, looks like you and your daughter, Catherine, started in November 11th, so 11/11 of 2020.
Okay. I
So
I
we're
knew it was
coming.
definitely cold, but I couldn't remember whether it was 21 or 22. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
coming up on your 2-year anniversary. Woohoo! Pat yourself
Yes.
on the back. So for
Yes.
those new to the channel or for those new to just personal development, why would you be invested in something in transformation for 2 years? Because sometimes just getting us there, to be a part of the transformation journey can be scary. But why stick around for
Right.
2 years?
Right. Well, I started because Catherine, who you just mentioned, was having some issues at school and just some kind of, like preteen girl issues that I felt like she needed somebody else besides her mom to talk to. So my goal was to have her get connected with you and get her situation fixed. Because we always want to help our kids.
Mhm.
And so through helping her, we have developed a stronger bond, she and I have. And then just you and I have decided that there are some things that as mamas, we need to work on also to take care of ourselves. Because, like the airplane analogy, if, you don't put your mask on first, you can't help anybody else. And so through that journey of, helping myself and becoming a better me for my family,
Yes.
it just keeps going because it just keeps getting better.
Oh, I love it. That's great. It just keeps going because it keeps getting better. It does, right? I want to, what's getting better? Like, what would you say is like like you use quotes on fix, right?
Right.
And do we need fix? Like, is that what you learned? Like we got fixed? Because I feel like somehow this fix and this getting better kind of like
Right.
plays a role into what you're saying. Can you elaborate on that? Connect the
Well,
dots.
we don't need fixed. Like we're not broken,
Yeah.
right? We just need to figure out how we best work ourselves in whatever community and environment we're in. And so that's what Catherine and I are figuring out is how we can best be our best selves to work in our family.
I love
And the changes that she and I have come across and developed have unintentionally, but for the better, spilled over into the other people that live in this house with us. And so that's another reason that we, are keeping going because she and I both are loving the development that we are seeing and loving, just the way that we're better equipped to deal with people
yeah.
because we know ourselves better. And that's what it starts with. It starts with us figuring out, our triggers and how we can best deal with them. And then, like you say, we teach other people how to treat us and how we want to be treated. Where prior, it was just, okay, I just have to take this, whatever you're going to give me, I just have to take it and stuff it.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I was a stuffer.
I love that. What beautiful awareness. And thank you for your vulnerability to share that with the world, right? I gotta like slow you down because you said some really good stuff there.
I know. I'm sorry.
So no, so many good little nuggets. So it does begin with a relationship with ourselves. When we transform how we treat ourselves, that's really what begins changing our reality. That's what I hear you saying. And so in what ways did you, or maybe even if you feel comfortable in sharing, Catherine, how did you observe her changing her relationship with herself? Or how did you, like, give the listeners tangible tools. What did you guys do to transform the relationship with yourself?
Well, for her, I kind of knew that I had passed on the low self-esteem gene. It's not really a gene, but it's the learned things, the things that we learn. Yeah, the things that we learn. Right, pattern, right. So, I learned it from my mom, and I unintentionally passed it on to my kids, and I am learning earlier than my mom learned. And so my goal is to help my girls specifically, but all four of my children, to learn better behaviors and better patterns earlier in life. So they don't have to, go through as much of the ick that I had to go through just because of the way I viewed myself. So when we started with Catherine, I remember specifically one of the things that she was most concerned about was her relationship with a couple of these girls who I call her frenemies. She was friends with them, and then she wasn't, and then she was, and then she wasn't, but she got very wrapped up in what they thought of her. And I remember specifically, I think it was just a couple of months ago when we were talking, the three of us were in session, and she said, that it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. What doesn't matter what anybody else says about her or her haircut or the clothes that she's wearing, because she has a better identity of who she is and a better view of who God has created her to be. And she realizes that that's what's important. And all of that, which I mean, I understand it up here because you do an amazing job of explaining how just breathing gets us connected with all of that stuff. But it's just amazing to me how much just going to pause and take a breath helps so much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I receive your gratitude. And to extend on that, that is because breathwork is somatic. Soma means body. We are really transforming our limiting beliefs by interacting and getting the body on board. So I can explain all day long to you, to viewers, listeners, why breathwork is so great or why you need to transform this limiting belief, but you're not going to transform it to the fullest level, or you're not going to fully believe it if we're not incorporating the body in some way. So I heard, so breathwork obviously is one way that you guys are working to grow that relationship with yourself. I also heard in what you said that there's a choice. Like you now you didn't state this, so I'm going to go ahead and state it because I know that you've created one of these, but you and Catherine have an emotional toolkit. That's something I really encourage all my clients to use. And within that toolkit, you can go to it. You receive handouts, different resources, feelings wheels, chart of emotional frequency, other tips and tricks that really help you in the moment to transform your reality so that you can see that you do have a choice to do that. And really gives you that empowerment piece, right? To continue moving forward and stay motivated within your transformation journey. So yes. Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm interested in this stuffing, and I think probably listeners would want to know, like, this stuffing, what's this idea of stuffing? Tell me a little bit about that. So what does stuffing mean to you?
So stuffing to me is if, for example, my husband says something that I don't appreciate, let's say. I'm not going to say anything to him because I don't want a fight. I don't want to deal with, what he may say back to me. I just don't want to deal with that. So I'm just going to stuff it, like literally just I'm not going to deal with it. And then my 17-year-old daughter, who is, a 17-year-old girl, sometimes, they don't always think before they speak. And she says something and it, gets me in my mom heart, but I don't want to fight with her either. So I'm just going to keep it in. And, and then you just keep, and then you keep, and then you keep. And then the proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back has nothing to do with what I've been stuffing, but then I just lose it and everything comes out and it's an ugly volcano. But I don't do that anymore because it's not healthy. It's not healthy for my body or my mind or my relationships or anybody. And, that's one of the many things that has just amazed me about this whole process is when I stop and, think before I speak, first of all, which we tell our kids all the time, but we still need to do that as adults, and take a couple of intentional breaths, because you hear, and even before we started our breath work journey, we heard all the time, just stop and take a breath, stop and take a breath. Well, there's so much more to it than just stop and take a breath. Like it has to be that intentional from your belly, the whole breath in and out. And when you do that with intention before you react, then you have a better handle on the situation and think more clearly and don't word vomit all over everybody in a way that you're later going to have to go back and apologize for, or you should.
Yeah, absolutely. So what propelled you in transforming this pattern of stuffing? Because would you mind sharing how long had you been in a relationship with just stuffing your emotions or avoiding your emotions?
Well, I'm 46 years old and we've been doing this for about 2 years. So about 44 years.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you're not alone. Like that is common, right? I mean, many of us are raised that way. We don't know how to interact with emotions. And I know I've said it on the channel before, but emotions literally stands for energy and motion. Our emotions are energy. And just like what Laura was saying, if I'm experiencing a specific type of energy or emotion and I stuff and I avoid and I stuff and I avoid, that energy's got to do something because energy is meant to move. And so a lot of times it moves in a destructive way where we don't feel good about ourselves and we don't leave others feeling good about themselves. So for 44, you said 44 years, right? So for 44 years, that's scary. How did you get over that scary hurdle? How did you, I guess really gain some like equipping and knowing that it's going to be okay to transform this pattern of mine? What did you like? How did that help you?
Well, so honestly, just doing it one time made all the difference. Stopping and taking that intentional breath and not stuffing it, but actually dealing with what was said was huge, because I was like, oh, it really isn't as big as we make it. But then to further dig into the 44-year history and going into that child work that we did, and going in and finding little Laura and helping her deal with the stuff that she had to stuff when she was a teenager, and realizing that I'd been to counseling and I dealt with it, I thought, but even that was still lingering and still having an effect on my day-to-day relationships with people, even still now. And so just going in and actually healing it and not just dealing with it, I guess that was the biggest thing that I realized when we finished that process, was that I had dealt with it, but I hadn't really healed the hurt and healed. I mean,
Yeah. So I hear you saying when you say dealt with it, you were interacting with like the triggers or the stressors within that moment that it was causing. But by healing it, you're referring to going back actually to the past and doing what? What was a part of your healing process, though, that helped you feel safe and helped you feel secure?
Well, I had to go had to go back and be willing to revisit it,
True.
which I didn't want to do. I mean, for the longest time, I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I don't think we're not doing that today. Not ready for that. But it came to the point where I either had to go back and revisit it and just get through the pain again, or I was just going to be stuck here forever, because you can't move past what you haven't healed and what you haven't hit head on. And I just had to go back, and I had to take responsibility for what part of it was mine, and I had to forgive and let go what wasn't mine.
Oh, I love that. That responsibility piece is such a key to the breathwork journey. I can say all day long that we create our own reality until I'm blue in the face, but until you actually take ownership of what you've created, only then do you get out of that victim role. And
Right.
then you move into that transformation. So forgiveness was a part of your journey, definitely. Um, and then I would say, to extend, just to make this clear for listeners and viewers, when you are interacting with the breath, we're incorporating the body, but so much more is going on within our nervous system, right? You feel at ease. So that when we talk about something that is triggering or upsetting, or something from the past that you really worked hard to stop all your life, you can really greet it with a sense of calm, with a sense of
Mhm.
ease, because you have the breath. You've activated the parasympathetic side of your nervous system, right? You're no longer interacting with those same stress responses that sympathetic side of your nervous system brings out. I also heard you say that you were able to connect with parts of you. So that inner child work, or parts work, as we say. So when connecting with inner Laura, why was that transformational for you when you connected with little Laura, as you said?
Well, because honestly, I didn't think that well, first of all, I didn't think it could be done. Honestly, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, I'm going to humor. Honestly, I was like, let me just humor Tiffany, and I'll just,
Yeah, it
okay.
seems
But
foreign. I agree. We're not taught to do
yeah,
that. Yeah.
right, right. And I mean, it's almost like, okay, yeah, I'm going to time travel and go back, and but it works. And and so when I started to just let go and not be so caught up in this is weird, and just trust the process and trust you, which I do infinitely, and realize that I'm in a safe place, and you're not going to take me someplace that the two of us together aren't going to be able to handle. Then it just started, all of these emotions and feelings that I hadn't felt in 20 plus years, and thinking about the specific situations. And it was like, I went back and I felt the same feelings again, but you were able to help me to deal with them in a more healthy way, and to even forgive myself as I was back then, and reassure her that we're okay
Yes.
and we're safe. And I remember we talked about it in our, after the breath, the kind of debriefing that we do. And I said, I felt kind of like split personality. And you know what I mean? Because it was like I was talking to myself, but it wasn't me today. It was me back then. But it wasn't like weird.
Right.
It
Right.
sounds weird. Like even now, saying it right now, it sounds weird. And I hope that, whoever is watching this and listening to this, really, it's not weird. it's,
Yeah, it's
it's,
another healing modality, right? We all have parts
yes.
of us, or inner children. I mean, I always jokingly say we have a preschool of, inner children within us. But these are just different parts of our lives where we might have experienced, small t trauma, trigger, stress, anything that could have left us feeling unsafe. And it's so transformative when we go back as the wise adult and talk to this part of us to really nurture. We're furthering nurturing a relationship with
Mhm.
ourselves, right? But also to heal and to assist them in that transformation. Um, this idea of talking to yourself, that's a part of creating that relationship with yourself, right? And transforming and healing, and loving on yourself. But as a mother, because you brought up your children few times now, I guess, what did you glean from that interaction and the way that you lovingly talked to that part of you? How do you relate that now to your life or to motherhood, or do you? Can you extend on that?
Yeah, I definitely have, especially with my oldest daughter. Elena is 17. And a lot of what I had to go back and revisit as myself as a teenager, I was trying to stop from happening to her. I was trying to protect her from things that had happened to me because of choices that I had made or allowed other people to make for me at that time. And what I realized going back and talking to that part of myself and reassuring her is that that's all I can do for Elena, is reassure her that I'm here for her as her mother. And my mom was there for me. That I'm not saying that she wasn't there for me at all, but she was only there for me as much as I would let her be there for me also, because we don't always share everything. And I don't expect my daughter to share everything with me either, but I just want to just reassure her in whatever choices she makes that we're a safe place for her to be, regardless of what is going on. And that actually has changed the dynamic of our relationship, even just in the few weeks since I healed that part of myself, just changing the way that I view my relationship with my daughter, is that I don't have to be in charge and try and stop her from doing XYZ or trying to get her to do XYZ. I just need to be there for her at this point and encourage her and guide her if that's what she's looking for. But she doesn't need me to, hold her hand anymore, because she's almost an adult, which scares the Jesus out of me, by the way. But that's a
Yeah.
whole other
Whole other session, right?
that's a whole other topic.
I love it. So I heard the reassurance, right? So now there's this reassurance that you feel within yourself, within the relationship you have with yourself. You're able to extend that outward, to project that, right? We all
Right.
project, whether it's positively or destructively, right?
Right.
And then this idea of releasing control and surrender. Oh, we're going to start talking a little spiritual here in a second with that. But when we're able to release control, we're not driven by fear anymore. Like,
Right.
that's life urge in itself, right? And then trust, like, you have this trust because you trust yourself now. And
Mm-hmm.
when we trust ourselves, then we can trust others. We can trust
Right.
life, and that it's always, working for our advantage. Um, I want to share a little bit about my experience of parts work, just, while we're on this topic. So I remember the first time I connected with one of my parts, or my inner child. And I found it to be extremely transformative too. And similar to you, it was my first time, and I thought it was foreign, and it was like a little discomforting. Um, and, like, we're not really, many of us are not raised to celebrate ourselves, or to, congratulate ourselves, or to speak to ourselves in positive, uplifting ways. We interact more with the destructive self-talk, right? So this idea of brain training is what I use, but it's, positive self-talk. That is really a key player in the transformational journey. So after I had experienced that, I know as a mother, I went home and I shared with my children. I set my two oldest down and I said, I will never be able to be around you 24/7 and to safeguard you. And I might even be the one to spread some of my ick unintentionally. And, you're going to be on the receiving end of that. But you've got to learn how to love on yourself, no matter what gets projected or what gets spread to you. And so
Right.
some of the things, that I've started implementing at home, just like I'm brain training, or I'm writing down my affirmations in my journal, I'm having my children do that. Or I remember, like, openly we would have, and we still do, but we have conversations at the dinner table. Well, what did your brain say today? And I understand that that might not be for everybody, and you got to kind of work up to that. But
Right.
we share, like, even those nasty thoughts, because
Yep.
that's like, if we're stuffing those down, then the mind can continue to grow and take you in a far worse place, right? And so we know as moms and just community members, that's not what we want for our youth. So yes, so I want to extend on this idea of life urge. You had said that when you started interacting with parts work, you were experiencing emotions and feelings that you hadn't experienced in a long time. So a lot of times when we avoid or we stuff, we become kind of numb or even complacent within life. And breath work is opposite of that. It is life urge building. I mean, when you start your breath work practice and you feel those tingles or those vibrations, like that's the energy flowing through your body, building that life force. Breath is life force. So would you be willing just to explain how has breath work infused that life force into you, or into your reality, or, how's that extended on into your loved ones as well?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, every day is transformed because of this, because I bookend my day with intentional breathing now. Before it was whenever I would get in a certain situation, whether it was stressed or, any negative emotion, I stopped breathing. And I didn't realize I was not breathing until finally I just had, you just have to breathe because if you don't, you die. And I would just take this huge breath and just sigh. And everybody was like, what's wrong? And of course, nothing. Everything's fine. I just needed to breathe. Everything's fine. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. But now I breathe like I'm supposed to. I breathe like my body was created to breathe. And I start every morning before I even get out of bed with my intentional breathing. And, I just am praying and asking God to be with me throughout the day. And if I know that there's something coming that could cause me stress, to, just help me remember to stop and breathe before it hits the fan. And then at night, as I'm falling asleep, I, do the same thing. I breathe myself to sleep and just go through everything through my day that, brought me peace, brought me joy, all the gratitude, so that's the last thing I think of at night before I fall asleep is the positive and gratitude thoughts, and not, prior to, I would have everything I have to do tomorrow is going through my brain. And so I would fall asleep tense. And then, that's no good.
Yeah, right. You're not going to maximize on your sleep when you are falling asleep like that. That's not going to happen. So you've developed this beautiful, intentional routine connected to your breath, inviting God in, and really working to not only have, I love this analogy you said, the bookends, right? So you start your day with it, you're ending your day with that, but even throughout the day, you're using your breath to keep you in present moment, to keep you in flow, right? When we can be in present moment, that's when we're flowing. So maintenance mode, I mean, like, you pat yourself on the back, right? Like we always do that here in the breathwork world. We gotta give ourselves pats and celebrate ourselves when we can. You willing to talk a little bit more about the spiritual piece of surrender and trust? Like, there's just so much trust which goes along with this idea of life urge, trust in God, trust in life is unfolding before you in this very sacred, divine way. How has breathwork transformed your relationship with God and spirituality?
So it has reaffirmed everything that you just said, that my trust in God. And it had gotten to where I didn't trust anybody. I didn't trust myself to make good choices and make good decisions for myself or anybody else. I was, afraid of what was coming next. I was afraid of, how are we going to pay this bill? I was, there was just so many things that I was afraid of, and didn't want to talk about with anybody either, because, I didn't want to be a burden to anybody, I mean, just all of the negative things that we spin in our own head when we get in our own head. And so this is, caused me to, again, consciously, think about and reconnect and reestablish that relationship with God, that He is the provider. He is the source. He is the one who I can always go to, always trust in. and he's always going to be there to provide whatever it is that we need. And mostly it's been the spiritual and the emotional, support that I just was trying to do myself. I can take care of this. I've got this. I'm fine. It's okay. Until it wasn't.
Mhm.
And so then, just going back and remembering that it's through him that I can do all things. It says it right there in black and white, right? I can do all things through him. And just relying on that and fully believing it and fully trusting in it.
Yes, yes. And so, I like to say that we are made in the image of, because the Bible states that. I mean, that we are. So he's our ultimate creator. We get to be creator as well, creator of our life.
Yep.
And when we are out of spiritual alignment, our creation is filled with that death urge, right? Opposite of the
Right.
life urge. We might experience that numbness and whatnot, but when we can bring him in and really surrender, it starts with us surrendering, opening up, and the breath is so amazing, and that it invites that surrender in.
Yep.
Anyway, it
Yep.
naturally leads to that expansion because it gets you feeling nice and safe,
Yep.
safe as you said. So yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of, whoa, well, actually, I don't want to rush through that. I have another question for you regarding
Yeah.
life, but before I do, would you be willing to share, is there a specific example that comes to your mind of maybe a time where you really felt like God speaking to you more, guiding you, or an example of like spiritual alignment, how you know that you're receiving, him more than when you were not? Does anything come to mind?
Yeah. So one of the things that it happens a lot, and we say it just so happened or the coincidence or whatever, but I mean, I don't believe in the coincidences. That's why I always air quote it just so happened that I was doing a devotion and was reading about how our God is the word. In the beginning was the word was God, the word was with God, and he created everything with his words. So then that same day, we come in to have a session with you, and we're talking about the power of our words and
Mhm.
how, what we say and we manifest, and, the positive affirmations, but making it more than just words that we say, but we actually believe and live out. And so that is now one of the verses that's on my mirror is our words create worlds was
Yeah.
what was the trigger. And then it just went into, because God created the whole world with his words, and we can do the same thing because what we focus on is what we're going to get. So if we focus on the ick, then we're just going to keep getting more ick. And, nobody really wants that. And so that has been huge for specifically Catherine and I, because we've been working, together with you through that. But then it's kind of seeped out into everybody else. And even when, we're in a tense moment, and Catherine and I have lots of eyeball conversations because we're so connected now through our breath that I can just look at her and take a breath, and she knows exactly what I'm thinking and exactly what I'm saying. And she knows when to just shut it down and
Oh,
not to engage in anything else that her siblings are doing. But then at the same time, I can give her, just a different mom face. And she knows when to say something that's going to uplift the person who she may be having kind of an interaction with. And obviously, usually is one of her siblings. Um, or just when it's time to just, be done and walk away and get herself into her safe space. So it's got, my husband isn't really a fan of my note cards all over the place and my notes to myself. And I had taken them all down because, snarky comments can only, be ignored for so long. And I finally was like, fine, I'm just going to take them all down. And now I'm back to, what? No, I need these. And everybody who brushes their teeth sees my, positive words of affirmation that I'm putting out into the world. And they probably read them too, because what else are you going to do while you're brushing your teeth? There's nothing else to do. So, yeah, so that was one of the main, like, I guess, transformative, it was like, oh, okay, well, I was just reading that and then she said that, and obviously this is what I'm supposed to be, doing right now.
Yeah.
So
Oh, and the support, right? The support that you have with
yeah,
one another, within this journey that can be sprinkled and really like bleeds out into your family dynamic, and
yep,
the emotional intelligence that you are increasing in yourself, that she's increasing in herself, and you're able to share that. That is such a blessing to your family. I am a big fan of put the post-its, put the note cards, get the window markers, write them on your mirror.
yep,
All of that is planting good seeds into your subconscious. And what is in our subconscious becomes our conscious reality. So why not pour more positive, creative, uplifting affirmations and thoughts within there? Because that becomes our belief
yep.
system. So kudos to you, Mama, for keeping that going. So when we talk about this life urge, I just want to know just something fun here. What are you most passionate about right now in life? What keeps you most alive?
Well, so it's kind of a twofold, right? So I am a work from home mom. So my first job is as a mom. And I love doing all the things with my kids. Elena, my oldest, is in the marching band and the color guard. And so I do a lot of things with her. My second, Greg, he is a high school wrestler. So during wrestling season, I'm a wrestling mom. But the work from home piece is my Mary Kay business. And that has given me the opportunity to connect with so many women. And just the foundation of the company being God first, family second, and career third, it just fits right into everything that I'm doing and has just exploded this past year. It was one of those things where I didn't really talk about it a lot to people. If you kind of accidentally found out I was a Mary Kay consultant, then sure, I'll sell you some product, but I wasn't going out and telling everybody about it. And I'm still not going out and telling everybody about it, but somehow people are finding me and asking and finding out, just asking the right questions, that I don't feel like I'm being that pushy, scary Mary Kay lady, but they doors are being opened that I could never do on my own. And it's just really exciting. And the kids are, seeing the excitement, and they're not like, oh, why do you have to go do that Mary Kay thing? They're like, hey, when are you going? How was your party? What are you going to do? When are we getting the car? So it's becoming a whole family thing again. It was when I first started, 16 years ago. But it's just, yeah, I mean, it's everything is falling into place in every area of my life, and it just keeps getting better. And I know that it's because I'm working on keeping myself in a good place, and I can't get what I'm not giving. Does that make sense? Like what I'm putting out is all positive. Well, not all, I mean, because I am human. I do, ick comes out sometimes, but it's
Yeah.
more good and more positive. And so
Yeah.
that's what's coming in. I mean, even my relationship, like with my husband, I mean, we've been married for 20 some years. What year is it? 21. Yeah, it's 21 years. And like I said, we've got 4 kids, and we've gone through, the ups and downs and all the things. But now, I mean, we're like in a really great place. It's almost kind of like we were, when we first got married. But we haven't gone to, marriage counseling. He's not doing anything to help himself get any better. It's just, I'm seeing the positive more than the negative. And I think because I am affirming him and showing him the gratitude, all of it's coming back. Like even when I was in Dallas for Mary Kay, I got to walk across the stage at
Yes,
seminar
you
for
look so
Mary
beautiful.
Kay. And I was so
Such
excited about
confidence
that.
flowing from you,
It
such
was,
confidence. Yes.
it was so fun. But I did, of course, so I took pictures and sent them to my husband, and he texts me back and he's like, you look so hot. When are you coming home? And I'm like, who are you? What? So yeah, I mean, just like everything is, I don't want to say like everything's great, because I mean, life, but more good than not.
Yeah, and it sounds
And
like it's coming with ease. Like you just said, like things
yes,
naturally right? Because you're open to it. You've laid down some of these disserving patterns. And when we lay those down, we're more willing to receive our well-being.
Right.
It's always flowing to us, right? I always say that
Yep.
well-being is always flowing to us. And just to reiterate, I've said this before on the channel, but well-being encompasses your physical being, your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual. A lot of people will lump emotional into physical, but I like to break that out because our
Yep.
emotions are energy. They vibrate at specific hertz. So we can really work to transform those to create the reality we desire. You know, you didn't say this, but I feel this from you. So let me know if I'm on point here, if I'm a little off, but you know, I get from you that you're really seeing and viewing yourself more like our beloved creator sees you. And is that hitting home at all? Do you
Yeah,
see yourself?
absolutely. Yeah.
And because of that, you have really created this loving, intimate, and you know, intimacy doesn't always mean sexual. I just have to say that 'cause a lot of us go that way, but like
Right.
the truly intimate, just secure and confident relationship with yourself. And I mean, you even
Yeah.
said like, I'm going to keep the note cards everywhere. I'm going to take that because it works for me.
Yeah.
And it's fueled by love,
Yeah.
right? And this forgiveness, like you
Yeah.
spoke to forgiveness. I have to ask, what has been the most transformative? I know you spoke to parts work, and that's fine if that's still the answer, but what has been the most transformative technique that you've participated in within your breathwork journey? Is it still that parts work? Is it the forgiveness process? Is it the daily conscious breathing? If you had to boil it down for just one that you wanted to really connect the dots to, you know, others' well-being, what would you suggest they do?
Forgive yourself. Absolutely. Because that was before the parts work. And that was before I started doing my bookending my day. I had to go back and I had to forgive myself of things that some of it I didn't have any control over, but I was taking ownership of it and it wasn't even mine. And to go back and give myself the freedom of forgiveness gave myself permission to love myself. I mean, like you said, I didn't like myself. You know, I was if you had asked me 3 years ago, tell me about yourself. I'm a mom.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
if we
it.
could like replay that, bold that, whatever, like what you just said there is key, right?
Yeah.
That was beautiful. And that's exactly why I would never force any client to go through a forgiveness process if they weren't ready. They've got to start to
Right.
feel equipped, right? And then once you
Right.
feel equipped, then you're able to forgive yourself. And because you forgave, you let go, you surrendered. Guess what gets to come your way? More
Yeah.
good and more good and more good, more well-being.
Yep.
Well-being is like the new rich. I'm telling you, like that's
Yeah.
where it's at, right? Because it feels that good. Like
Yes.
we are deserving of feeling that good.
Yep.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Forgiveness. Beautiful, beautiful. Um, Tell me about, many people don't know that I offer this service, water breath work, because it's not always appropriate for every client. I hope that viewers and listeners, you really observe that you know, breath work is interacting with your nervous system. So I take a very slow, mindful approach. But tell me about water breath work. You know, you were a client, you've been a client for 2 years. The first year, didn't really dabble in water breath work. Now you're dabbling a little bit more. Can you just
Mhm.
explain from a client side, what is water breath work? What has it been like for you? And yeah, let's just hear a little bit about that.
So it is, to me, it's two parts. So we start on the ground and it's grounding, and just connecting with nature and just being outside and being in God's creation and recognizing all the parts of that and how we interact just sitting still with all of the nature that's around us.
Yeah, so when you
And
said we start on the ground, you mean that we're either sitting out of the water or you can be
right,
laying out of the water, but we are
right.
outside of the water. Yes, thank you.
Right. Yes, like literally
Right.
grounding on the ground, feet on the concrete.
There we go. Good, thank you.
Yeah. So then when we transfer that and move into the water, then we kind of reground, but feet on the bottom of the pool. But still, now the water is kind of enveloping you. And it just gives you a whole other sense, just a whole other sense of being is the only way that I can explain it. Like, I've been in pools, I've floated around in a pool, I've floated in the ocean, but this is a different level of floating. This is like I never feel like I've moved the entire time that I'm doing my breath. And your eyes are closed because you're under the water. Tiffany takes such good care of you. You feel so safe. Like, I referred, well, my mom, who is afraid of water, and she has done it. And she even told me, she's like, I wasn't scared. I knew that Tiffany was there, and I just felt so safe. And that's exactly what it is. Like, I've never snorkeled before in my life. And so when I started breathing with the snorkel thing, I was like, oh my goodness, okay, this is going to last about 5 seconds and I'm going to have a panic attack and we're going to be done. But it did it, because you are just so reassuring through all of these processes that, like, I'm not afraid of any of it. Even as weird as it may seem, I just know that you're always going to be there, and you're super protective of us and our emotions and our physical being. And I love you. And I am so grateful that this is all, come to fruition.
Thank you.
So I say all that to say, I'm floating around in this pool, and apparently I move around the entire swimming pool, but I don't feel that. I feel like I'm literally just still, and it's just me and the water. And every once in a while I can hear Tiffany's voice, because she does, guide you a little bit, and, tells you, speaks the affirmations over you. And sometimes I hear it and sometimes I don't. And because sometimes I'm just, so focused on my own breath and my own healing. And then it's just, I don't know exactly how to put it into words.
Yeah.
It's just a whole other feeling, but it's like this peaceful, light, like, I don't even know. It's just, yeah.
I agree. Every time after I either am guiding a water breath work or I'm participating in myself, it just feels so loving and safe and just comforting. And so, there's cold water breath work, there's warm. Right now, everybody, we're talking about warm water breath work in a pool. And warm water is to bring out intimacy, but intimacy really stands for into me, I see. So here we go back again today, talking about this intimate relationship that we create with ourselves. It's just another modality that can get you in a deepened relationship with yourself, right? So that we can reflect that and project that out into our reality. I wanted to extend something about water breath work. And it can, that's what I wanted to say. It can resemble, excuse me, our womb experience, right? So warm water takes us back to the time when we were in our mother's womb. And we know that a lot of our patterns not only come from our mother, but they come from our father too. They come from our ancestors. And these are patterns that really our family members have played a role in our since being. And this is one of those modalities that can further transform that. So thank you for sharing that and extending what that experience was like for you. So if you had to summarize for listeners and viewers here, your biggest takeaway from your breathwork journey, how could you really connect the dots to their well-being? What is something that you would want to make sure, lay it all on the line, say it here today?
Well, first of all, you deserve to be taken care of. And the first person to take the best care of you is yourself. And so just taking the time to connect with yourself and extending, connecting the breath in with everything helps to just bring everything all together. And I know a lot of people are like, I go to counseling and I did, whatever. But that's just head stuff. This is whole body. And that's the piece that even when I'm talking to, I have some skeptics in my family, they're like, I don't understand. You're just breathing. But it's so much more than that, because it activates that whole, whatever big word is that you use, system.
Yeah, well, the parasympathetic, yeah, but it's our whole being, right? Our breath
Yeah.
encompasses our spirit, our mind, our physical being, and our emotionality. You're right. That whole being approach.
Yep.
Yeah. So you
And
just
that's,
oh, go ahead. So
no, I was just going to say, and that's like, that has been the key is, just getting the whole system activated and involved, and just being willing to be vulnerable and open, and sometimes do the hard work. That forgiveness process was no walk in the park. It was definitely worth it. And I would go back and do it all over again if I had to, which I'm not going to have to, because I have forgiven myself, and that it's,
down, yeah.
yeah. But I mean, it is, it's not all easy peasy floating around in a pool, but it's all worth it.
Mm. I love it. I thank you so much for being on the podcast today. You are an exemplar of grit. And I don't mean grit in like, I'm going to force myself to do something, like it doesn't feel good. Like I'm going to push past, like, even though my body's telling me to stop. I mean, like the grit that is filled with optimism and hope, because you are doing this for yourself. You are taking care. You're not looking to external factors to build the confidence, to transform the relationship with yourself. You are going internal. You are connecting with that lovely divine spirit within you through that internal sourcing, right? So thank you. Thank you for sharing, for being vulnerable. I know that your message, your story is going to transform others' lives and others' realities. So I really thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on. And like I said, all the things that you've done for me and Catherine specifically, but then it's just poured over into our whole family. And so I'm just
When we
grateful
heal
that God
ourselves with
put us
love.
in alignment. So,
Yes, others heal, right? When we heal ourselves with love, others heal
yep.
around us. Like that's how it is. So before we wrap, I just want to share our biggest takeaways from our talk today. So as you can tell, intimacy is key. Into me, I see. This transformation process really begins by transforming the relationship you have with yourself. And whether that's through brain training, through the breath work, through writing affirmations, through creating a very intentional schedule for your day, connecting with spirit, that is the gold mine right there. When we begin to transform our relationship with ourselves, our reality begins to change too. Breathwork is so a key player in the transformation process because it's encompassing your body. And we're really talking about our whole being here, not just the mental shift. I would also say another key point from our conversation today is how destructive the stuffing of emotions and avoiding emotions can be when we are willing to experience emotions as energy through the use of tools, chart of emotional frequency or feelings wheels, and then learn techniques, breathwork techniques to transform those emotions. We can begin to be in the flow. We no longer have to stuff. And we can learn healthy communication strategies too, to share our feelings and our thoughts with others so that it feels safe to assert ourselves. And then also out of our session today, I would say another big takeaway is this idea of parts work and forgiveness, having this willingness to connect with your parts, different parts of your life, and then to forgive those parts as well, to really support you in that transformation. When we are willing to surrender, when we're willing to let go, God could step in, he can take over, and he gets to be that driver so that we can receive that spiritual alignment. So thank you, Laura. So how can listeners, viewers get a hold of you? What if someone's interested in Mary Kay? What if someone has a further question? What's the best way to reach, to connect?
So if you want to get in touch with me, you can visit my website at marykay.com/Laura Gladden, all lowercase. Or if you want to get in touch with me about my personal journey and have some other questions, then I am giving Tiffany permission to give my phone number, and you can feel free to text me and just let me know a little bit, who you are and why you're texting me. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm an open book. I just feel like this is important journey for everybody to take if they are ready and willing. And, I'm here to help anybody in any way that I can.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you for being a catalyst for others' transformation journey. We all deserve to feel good. You're right. Yes. Yes. All right. Well, thank you everyone for breathing love today. Until next time. Bye.